Hi, and welcome to the CX Insider Chat series. This is the second episode. In the first episode, we spoke to several consumers. Today, we are talking about altered marketing actioning and all-terrain retail engine. The first series, we captured the customer's verdict on, how and why, on the hows and whys behind the purchase, the shift towards brands, preferred methods of shopping, and more. We are now in this series in conversation with seasoned marketers and CMOs to get the POVs on how they're planning to incorporate the customer's voice to boost their brand value and offer better customer experience. I'm very excited to have with me today Nazif Tejani. He's the CRM lead for Bestseller India. Nazif, thank you for joining us. This is you're the first one we are doing in this episode. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Hoshi, for having me over. Looking forward to a very exciting conversation with you.
Likewise, Nazif. I'm sure it'll be exciting. I'm going to straight away get into our first question. I did share with you our consumer interactions, but for the sake of this video, I want to state it again. Our interactions with consumers showed that they want to be treated as individuals during the entire shopping journey and post that also. What can brands do to ensure this for their consumers?
Right. So I think the most important thing for any business is eventually looking at what does a customer want, right? And old school marketing or other, marketing what, let's say 10 or 15 years ago was this is my customer profile, this is my persona of people I'm targeting. And this is what they want. This is the need that I'm there in the market to fulfill, right? And all of our strategies as marketers used to be tailored around that. As we've grown up and as marketing has grown, this is now the age of data. Everything that you do essentially generates data, and at some level, eventually customers want that data to come back and benefit them. I think that's a very, very fair expectation. You used to have products which are essentially, unique for each individual. I think that is always the aspiration which customers want, because we all have certain specific, as individuals, different needs, which we look to fulfill through products, like whether it's apparel or any kind of product. Having said that, the idea is, how do you kind of do this at scale? How do I ensure that you as an individual have your needs met through, personalization? And I think that becomes even more important. If you're collecting data as a business, or you are getting signals from a customer, you want to utilize that to sell them something that they actually want, right? And I think that that's very important to do. At that point, that particular marketing interaction then becomes very easy, even for you as a marketer, because then all those barriers around conversion just drop away immediately. If I have relevance, then it becomes extremely easy for a customer to trust what I'm bringing to the table in terms of the product, and then they will kind of, the transaction becomes super easy for us.
Second question, customer democracy, the buzzword right now. What practices are you currently following to make customer centricity the North Star of your brand, Nazif?
Okay, so I essentially believe that all of us, right, eventually want to do what is best for the customer. We do not want to force, or we do not want to sell something which the customer does not want. Like I said, my philosophy when it comes to marketing is simple, that the customer has a need. That is literally why he or she is in your store or on your website looking to buy certain products, whether, whatever kind of, it could be a shirt, it could be a t-shirt, it could be many of the apparel things, or it could be footwear. So they have a particular need, or they associate that this is a brand which will fulfill a need which is latent, which I'm not stating, or which is not there in the top of my head right now. But it's something which, can be delivered for my benefit. That is what we aim to do. Having said that, because you keep that focus in mind, what you aim to do is give the customer on every touch point something which is extremely relevant. When I say every touch point, I mean whether it's a sale touch point, whether it's a communication touch point, right? These are the two effective channels where a customer ideally interacts with you. The third could be a post-purchase or an after-sale touch point as well, right? So pre-purchase is something which is very important. And all of these three is where you need to personalize that journey for that customer. Why is this important? Now, I'll give you an example, which I keep speaking about, is that there is a black dress which I have in a particular store, my brand, Veramoda. That particular black dress is sought by, let's say, 7 or 8 or 10 customers. Each of them has an individual need. One of them buys it because it's a particular length. The other one buys it because it's a black dress and that's literally what she needs for a party. The third could be that the sleeve cut or the cut of the dress is a particular way. The fourth could be that this particular dress has a particular design or a particular impression which that person wants to get. These are 4 different needs being fulfilled by the same product, right? And in the end, what we should aspire to do in terms of customer centricity is to identify what is this that this customer wants, right? If I have to show up a bunch of options, and let me put it this way, that without personalization, what I would do is I would show, if the customer lands up at my store, I would show her, let's say, 10 different products, which I, as a salesperson or as a sales staff or on my website, whatever is being sold best is what I will display. Some of those products will identify with that customer, they will, or rather the customer will identify with those products. Some of the other products she may not identify with, right? The higher the relevance to the customer, the more time that she will spend. If she doesn't find what I'm displaying to her not relevant, she will either walk away or turn off the website page, etc. Right? So, as a business, my goal is to ensure that whatever that the customer is today looking for, and again, like I said, some of these needs are outright and said, and they're there. Some of these things are through implied behaviors, and that is where data plays a role. I'll come to that a little later. Once you use that, imagine a selection where 70 to 80% of what you display to a customer is something where she says, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, but 70 to 80% are options that she likes. At that moment, the customer eventually will want to at least move a little further in that purchase journey, which is what we're all trying as marketers to do. Which is, how do you ensure that that journey becomes shorter, leads to a transaction, maybe leads to a repeat purchase in the future, and hence, eventually becomes, a brand loyalist customer. So the moment you focus on what is important to the customer at the pre-purchase stage is what I'm saying, where I'm coming at. And you've used that personalization to communicate to the customer saying, hey, this is what you wanted, and this is what I have to show you. I'm not saying that every product is what she was looking for today. She may decide to look at it maybe 15 days down the line, or a month down the line, or 2 months down the line. Her experience has already gotten better. She's at least somewhere in that frame of maybe looking to purchase, etc. That is something you've done that. Now imagine that is the pre-purchase stage. Then she walks into the store. Maybe she doesn't buy that particular product online at that moment. She walks into the store. At that point, you have your sales staff. He has exactly the same list of recommendations, along with maybe another 5 products, which this customer has clicked on or browsed. Again, and those are again the same products that she sees. At that moment, that customer goes in and transacts, right? And she goes in and buys, maybe a couple of products. At no point is this, is a hard sell required for that particular sales staff or for that particular business or that brand. All you've done is, the customer had a latent need. What you've done is you brought it in front of her, you've displayed it to her. She's seen it once, maybe on your website, once maybe in the store with the assistance of the sales staff. That entire journey closes. Later, she shops, she goes back home. Maybe she decides that, oh, maybe I don't like this product, or maybe this particular product color does not match my skin tone, something around that. Maybe decides to return that. The moment she decides to place a post-purchase, let's say a return, and that's easily and quickly available to that customer. That entire journey has become super easy. How have you done that? Is at every stage, which is pre, during the transaction, and post, you have focused on what is important to her. And this sounds very, it sounds very simple, but it probably means a lot of levers working in the background to deliver that. There will be a whole load of technology which will need to be implemented. You will need to look at past purchase behavior. You will need to probably build a model to recommend what you would want to buy. So once you have that goal set out, which is this is what you need to do at every stage, I think that is where you should start at, and then everything else flows from there.
Thank you. Nice explanation. A lot of challenges ahead, but I guess they have to be kind of overcome, and you guys are on the way. Let's talk of communication. Okay, we know it, and consumers spoke about a lot of excessive and intrusive communication, and there's plenty of it coming from all over the place. How should brands plan to ensure relevant and mindful messaging for their customers, Nazif?
So, Hoshi, that's very interesting when you speak about communication and over communication. Or, I think everyone, at some point wants to, like I said, right, a customer wants to look at a particular set of products. They're always at some point. Maybe they're really early in the purchase cycle. Maybe they are really, almost close to purchasing. But every customer is on their journey in the purchase cycle at some point. You have to be able to identify at what stage is she, right? Uh, Once you're able to identify that, and again, every customer is different, right? Some people may purchase twice a year. That's their shopping frequency. That's how they shop for fashion. There may be others who may again, and maybe for that particular kind of customer, your communication needs to be tailored, around that frequency. There will be others who again shop twice a year, but would love seeing, what is new in the store every week. With that happening, you now need to know that, what is the frequency that each particular customer has. So now, not only are you segmenting for what they want, you are also segmenting for when do they want to see it. Once you arrive at that particular communication preference, and some of this is preference, some of this is also reaction to what you're communicating, right? So you have to measure what is the response to a particular communication, not just in terms of revenue, but does a customer view it? Does she click on it? Does she, for instance, how is she engaging with the communication? So you have to be able to set a frequency of communication. The moment you do that and you say this is the frequency for that customer, that's not just the only thing which is important. What you also will need to do is, I feel that someone feels it's over communication at a particular point when it's not relevant. No customer, if you have relevant communication, will have an issue with you communicating to that particular person. So the moment the communication is relevant and personalized, the customer, the customer resistance rather to that communication decreases quite a bit. They, again, like I said, people would want to buy, right? People are there at some point in that fashion cycle. They are associated with a particular brand, especially after making 2 or 3 visits, etc. It's because they like the brand, they like the products, what the brand brings out there, month on month, year on year. So the moment you are more relevant and more, personalized, the customer will be happy to receive it. Again, some people may have a preference in terms of when do I communicate. We've seen that some particular customers would prefer to get a weekday communication. Some customers want a weekend communication. That is the response that we see in, in terms of their click behavior, in terms of their transaction behavior. I need to tailor my communication around that. If I send a communication to someone who looks at communication on a weekend, if I send it to him on a weekday, he or she is not going to be interested. So not only am I tailoring my frequency, I'm tailoring the send time. I am also tailoring my channels as we speak. So some customers would love to see some, what you're sending out on, let's say, a text message. Others would prefer email. And even others would prefer that social media. Whereas there would be a set of people saying, you show me everything that you have on every channel, which is very small. It's 2%, right? Fair. but I still should be able to do that for those 2 or 5% of my customers who want to see more communication, right? So I am now looking at multiple journeys across frequency, across communication channels, across categories. And of course, all of these communications need to be relevant to that particular customer.
Customized.
Yeah, absolutely customized. So in fact, it's customized to the level where it needs to be at a segment of one level, where every communication is personalized, not just from a communication of what am I sending to you, but also when am I sending it to you, what am I sending it to you, and which channel. All of these three things can be customized, and it is something that we should do as marketeers.
Wonderful. Nazif, my next question. The mic's on. Okay, reward programs. Consumers are, kind of demanding, speaking about having reward programs which are more beneficial to them. They're obviously reward programs because they bring a benefit, but they want more direct, more benefits to them. Any plans of making this happen, and how?
So I think reward programs, originated from point-based programs a while ago. A lot of businesses and brands have point-based programs, and what I think what has happened is the entire world has moved towards, and even more so in the last couple of years, is towards instant gratification. You want to, as a consumer, know what is it that you're getting, and you want to get that quickly. The communication around that also needs to be simple, saying you need to do steps A, B, C to get to point D where you get a particular reward. Uh, so with that in mind, I think reward programs need to be tailored around benefits and about giving out what the customers actually want, rather than rather than a small amount of points or a small percentage discount. It needs to be maybe the frequency may be a little lower, or it may be that's something that the business can adjust, but the reward at the end needs to be substantial. Again, the reward needs to be something the customer will like. uh, how does that happen is that you tailor it to either something which has a high perceived value for the customer. Maybe it's a little, yeah, so it has to be high perceived value for the customer. The customer eventually has to feel that this is a reward which I would have probably bought, or I would have probably, found use for. And this is a business which is rewarding me for my purchase behavior for that. And at that moment, that reward gets valued and appreciated by the customer, and which will make a positive impact on his journey with the brand. If, for instance, I give a low value reward, or a reward which does not have value, in the eyes of the customer, all I'm doing is draining out, I'm draining out marketing expense at my, and because obviously there will still be an expense, however low cost their reward may be, but the customer doesn't see a benefit. Right? So every reward which goes into any reward program has to be chosen very carefully, and it has to be tailored in such a way that the customer sees it coming. He or she kind of works his journey towards that, and when he receives it, there is an appreciation of the brand that he is buying from, and hence that positive virtuous cycle continues for the business.
Thank you. Consumers have started showing an inclination towards a connected experience, connected CX, to establish better customer connects. What can brands do to ensure this for them?
So I think it's very important to kind of merge, or rather have all your so there's this concept called the CDP, right, which is the customer data platform, and it needs to be online, right? So a customer needs to be all of that information about a customer, whether it's sales related information, or whether it's feedback related information, or whether it's signals, for instance, like I said, browse behavior on a website. All of these things possibly originate from different systems. These need to be integrated into a customer data platform. They need to be held together. They need to be analyzed together. Uh, Not just that, at the moment, when you're communicating that, right, this particular thing needs to be leveraged as well when you're sending out those communications. More so, what's also happening is people are online. I mean, people are on social media. There are many other things in terms of upcoming, which is in terms of the metaverse, etc. All of these things are something which new customers and Gen Z, etc., are adapting to it quite rapidly. You have to be looking at how does your brand fit into this, and at what point are you able to play a role which the customer kind of wants. You have to start with an integrated approach for that.
Last question, Nazif. Summary from you. Okay. How are brands going to create experiences in your assessment? How should brands create experiences that customers love so that they can keep coming back for more?
I think you said it yourself. I think customer centricity is like the number one thing, which is every team in the organization, every person in the organization needs to think that how does this particular activity that I'm doing, does this benefit the customer? I think that is step one, which is you look at keep the customer at the center of your business, and especially for businesses like retail and fashion, that becomes extremely important because you are eventually a B2C business where the customer is interacting directly with your brand. So keep customers at the center of it. I'll just spend a little time on this, which is that there are some simple things, right, which you could do. For instance, having like an integrated order system across your online and offline web channels, for instance. When you do that, customers are able to see their transaction history, clearly in one place. Does it add a direct revenue benefit? Probably not. There's no way to measure that. But having that there, the customer is able, his life or his journey becomes a lot more easier. So these are investments, right? These are some things which will show up in the longer term value or the customer value, which this customer will show you over the next 2, 3, 4 years in terms of lifetime value. But that is not going to have an instant ROI. So keep customer centricity, I think, at the center of it without looking at instant ROI. I think that's very, very important. The second thing is be connected in terms of integrate your data into one place. I think I've already stated this, but having that data all together and available to kind of not just market to customers, but also while seeking feedback or while answering queries or while recommending something to the customer, that becomes extremely important. Think the other thing is let customers choose where and when they want their communication. Offer that out. We're having, I think, shortly there will be a new data privacy law which will come in the next year and a half, possibly. That will emphasize on that, but again, that is beneficial to the customer. So have that there. Look at in terms of rewards. Look at programs which work for the customer, and fulfill particular business goals along with that. But they should fulfill what the customer's needs are as well. I think without doing that, something which gives the customer a high value in terms of what the program delivers is extremely important. And finally, point number 5, which is really the culmination of all this, is leverage technology, because all of these 4 things are not going to be possible. You have to maximize technology utilization. All of these things get fulfilled with tech, and that's what we do. I mean, even now we look at solutions at least twice a month, at least 2 solutions a month. We may not implement them, but we at least see what is important and what is what is possible, and at some point they become part of our tech funnel as well.
Yeah, technology is going to be at the core of all of this. I have no summary to give since you summarized it correctly. But I think companies who get this entire consumer journey correctly and connect with them with appropriate products at the correct time and the correct messaging, are going to do extremely well, because that is it is consumer democracy to a very different level than we imagined a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I think it's changed quite a bit. I mean, like I said, the availability of data is so much more that it's pretty interesting, and it's a great time to be working in the customer marketing space.
Yeah, you must be having a very exciting time. So
Absolutely.
wonderful space to be. Nazif, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Hoshi. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Thanks. We spoke to one marketeer earlier, and today we have another industry professional. Varun, welcome to this particular chat series. Uh, as I mentioned, you're the second marketing professional that we're speaking to, and I will immediately get into questions. The first question is: our interactions with consumers showed that they wanted to be treated as individuals during the entire shopping journey and after that too. What, in your assessment, can brands do to ensure this for their consumers?
Sure. So Hoshi, that's actually been the holy grail for a really long time, right? How do we treat consumers as individuals, not as either order numbers or loyalty ID numbers and things like that, right? And obviously, there is a tech component and there is a data component and then there is a service element component, right? And I think initially everyone went down the tech route. uh, Whole host of martech solutions came up. Then everyone started going down the data route. A whole host of AI buzzwords and different types of data related and analytics related buzzwords came up. Obviously, the two marry to each other, the MarTech and the AI, but they are at the end of the day still the enablers, they're still the tools. What it comes down to is how you create service elements, both in terms of blueprints, in terms of experiences, which are then using the two tools of MarTech, of marketing automations, of marketing technology, as well as data technologies, analytics technologies, but then adding the human element to it in terms of service designs, experience designs, which sort of makes it more personal. Because just sending hi Hoshi is not personalization. Forget that. Even just sending hi Hoshi, here are some hotels for you is also not personalization, because yeah, it gives you a slightly better click rate, but true personalization is when it's an experience that can be delivered at scale. Imagine the that. So just to start off with, I think when we talk of treating consumers as individuals during the journey and post that, it is that blend of experiences which actually makes that journey an individualized journey. Till then, there's personalization, but it's not individual. It's not yet making me feel amazing about it, right? Because now, obviously, as tech has become easier, data has become more, the access to algorithms has increased. Practically everyone is doing the people who buy this also buy that, or you may also like equivalent recommendations. That's no longer going to be the key point. So obviously, as marketers, the marketing industry, the tech industry, the analytics industry have to think a little more than just people who buy this also buy that.
Thank you, Varun. We'll come to mindful marketing later. Uh, I have to kind of share here. Today, I was in conversation with very senior leader in the industry. I obviously can't call him out, can't name him. They have 480 million customers. You can imagine who it is, and which means 40% of India's population they kind of cater to. Spoke about something similar in terms of personalization, and they want to hit that. It's become very critical. Brings me to my next question, which is consumer democracy. It's kind of here. Even that guy spoke about the same thing. What practices are currently being followed to make customer centricity the north star of your brand?
Right. Of course, customer centricity has been much used, much sort of talked about across a lot of the consumer space. But before, I think customer centricity, right? Obviously, in the earlier days, it was about going out in the market, getting the market research, data building, 2 or 3 cohorts of consumers, personas of consumers, and thinking that you are customer centric, because there were fewer variables, there are fewer things which should change. So, okay, if you didn't fit in one of those three, you were close to the one of those three, right? So it kind of allowed for customer centricity in that sense.
Thank you, Varun. Varun, in the earlier question you spoke about, you didn't say one size fits all, but, you are assuming because certain set of customers tried something, everyone else, and, then messaging kind of goes out to try and make those fits, which at times are, force fits. And this is something that, the consumers we spoke to, every single one of them complained about, excessive and intrusive communication. And I face it myself. How should brands plan to ensure relevant and mindful messaging for their customers?
So I think it's one of three things. One is if you, I'm assuming you're nobody is at nobody should be at hygiene of saying send the same offer to everyone all the time, right? No consumer minds getting an offer once in a while, even if it's generic, right? Even if it's a sale announcement, no consumer minds it. No consumer minds a hotel on 20% off. But it's just when it starts getting repetitive, it's the same thing week in, week out, across whatever channel there is. That's when it starts getting into a complete black spot, right? So one is, to my mind, obviously, you have to give the consumer the option of choosing out. I think that is, and specifically the new data protection laws that will come in, that is a given, right? I think obviously not to make, it's not been mandated. Obviously, it's not enforced across large parts of our ecosystems, but that is almost like a given, right? Consumer wants to stop. I love the part that GDPR has said that I will choose what all interactions the brand can have with me. It can be deleting my information. Uh, it can be saying, okay, I will get only so many communications. It can be, I will get only these types of communications, etc., etc. So I get a lot more control. Or it can just be, I retain the account but don't communicate, right? It retains that control. So if you want to stop intrusivity, it has to start with giving the consumer a little more control of what he or she wants and does not want, right? Secondly, like I said, obviously, personalization, there are two angles to it. One is, nobody has a problem with, again, if you use the data to create value. Uh, Data exchange has to create value. When consumers are asked, fill in your data, it can't just be for getting one SMS, right? It just can't be for that, right? It has to have some additional value exchange coming in from the brand, which the last part of it is the intrusivity and excessiveness. Uh, in any communication, you have to have a very nice mix of what is personalization, what is offer, and what is experiential. And I love the book by Gary Vaynerchuk of left hook, right jab. I always get confused in the boxing terminologies. Clearly, no boxer myself, but that's a very powerful insight, right? The left jabs and the right hook. I think the jabs are what you sort of you send through personalized communications. You keep the relationship warm. You sort of talk about not just, hey, here's my new hotel on sale, or here's my new airline ticket on sale, but you also talk about almost like the first cry parenting, the Nika community, which is more community, which is more consumer content. You talk about that, you're keeping the relationship warm. You have to intersperse it with the Kadu sort of sales stuff, right? Because there is obviously numbers in that sense. But if you give enough value through the left jabs, then no consumer minds the right hooks, even if, as long as they're with a decent frequency, right? They can't be every day, but as any new parent will tell you, the baby center, the content that comes from baby center is phenomenal, right? And when they send offers, the parent will look at it because there's that trust built in. But if you keep on sending offers or you just once in a while send content, that just makes you into yet another sort of zone.
Thank you. So you're saying give more control to the consumer, reduce your frequency, make it more relevant.
Make it
So
more relevant and frankly make it less transactional.
reward points. Okay, now reward programs and stuff, all of us have been part of them. And, again, I echo with the people I spoke to. Uh, everyone wants a reward program that's more beneficial to them. Uh, how should companies make it happen? What should they do? Yeah.
The problem with most loyalty programs has been is uh, loyalty has pretty much sat on top of discounts, not sort of been able to really shift discounts enough, and therefore they sit on top of discounts and they become yet another cost angle in a P&L, which is generally in consumer companies quite stretched.
Varun, we spoke about various things. At the end of the day, it seems customer wants personalization, customer democracy. Each guy wants to be treated as an individual. I spoke about the leader I spoke to today, who's saying for 480 million people, consumers, they want to try and create a personalized experience. Quite a challenge. What is your advice? How do you think brands should create experiences? My last questions that customers love so that they keep coming back for more. And the fact is, I think today, all of us want to be treated differently and in a more connected manner.
So I think when it comes to personalization, there has to be a nice pyramid which is created. There is the mass sort of week in, week out stuff, which is personalized communications, personalized journeys, which is typically done through marketing, done on e-com, which is what your bread and butter of personalization is. Of course, you have to have, there's the hygiene, there's the delighters, and then there's the wow creator sort of thing, right? Now, for every company, obviously, that pyramid is going to be different, but the base has to be, ability to at least communicate in a personalized manner across touch points, right? It that one is the one which needs the most technology, because different touch points give different data, have different ways of talking to each other. So you have to be able to first create your the centralized database, single view of consumer, which every brand wants to do. You have to have enough marketing analytics muscles, and then personalization and marketing muscles to be able to deliver that out. That pretty much becomes hygiene, right? Beyond that, it is the good, sort of the delighters, which are still not going to be for all your consumers. You can't afford for it to be to all your consumers. You can't call all your consumers to a beautiful, sort of a fashion week or a exclusive wine and dine session. It just won't work P&L wise, right? So you have to have this for those targeted consumers, which will be your delighters, which will be your loyalists, which will be your repeat consumers, who are your advocates in that sense, who are engaged enough with you, and whom there is a potential to deepen a relationship, not just a transactional relationship, but also sort of an advocacy relationship. So it is those where you build more of a delighter angle. The wows are really what you try for the absolute cream de la cream in that sense, because they are the ones whom you want to invest the most in to get the maximum return, hook them in, because at the end of the day, the Pareto rule always applies in some form or the other, right? It might not be 80-20, it'll be 60-20, but it's still there. So for of that 20, the top 1% will contribute to about 15-20%, right? So they are disproportionately important. There is where the most experiences will need to be created, so that they become talking points, they become attraction points. Some of that for the lower tiers, you can sort of for the mid one, you can give them sneak accesses once in a while just to make it interesting. So that's one way. That's one way of going about it. The second way of going about it is obviously, if you look at the lot of the new age companies, the creds, the gaming companies, right? Obviously, they have built a lot of engagement by making things interesting, by making things in micro rewards, which typically large companies have not done. So that's the other way, because that the data becomes the bedrock for your personalization at the end of it.
Varun, thank you very much. Great inputs, different from other leaders, but extremely valid. Appreciate you joining us for this chat series. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We today have a very interesting guest. I was chatting with him before we started recording. Amandeep Singh Khurana, head of loyalty programs, PVR Cinemas. A very different kind of guest, very different kind of opportunities and challenges. Amandeep, thank you for joining us. Look forward to a great interaction.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Okay, before I jump into the first question, let me set a little context again for you, Amandeep, and for the audience. We've been speaking to customers on their shopping habits, on their loyalty patterns, and now that we have the customer's verdict on what, how, and why behind their purchase decisions, the shift towards brands, preferred methods of shopping, and more. We want to talk to you and get your point of view and on how you are planning to incorporate the customer's voice to boost your brand value and offer customer experiences. I'll start with the first question, Aman. Our interactions with consumers showed that they wanted to be treated as individuals during the entire, shopping journey, if I may call it in your case, their purchase journey, and after that too. What can brands such as yours do to, and quite challenging for you because you might be having millions of customers. So what can you at PVR do to ensure this for your viewers, if I may call them?
Oh, thank you so much, Hoshi. In fact, a small context: we are now PVR Inox, and we are the champions of out-of-home entertainment. We have a very respectable competition, but it's really our job as the leaders to lead the customers in their journey, right from discovery towards conversion, towards actual consumption of the content, and then the post-purchase feedback and the experiences that they give us. So in fact, what you're saying, while the context is new, Hushi, it's an actual age-old problem. I would actually let us take and at the risk of aging ourselves, let's take the long view, right? Right from the last 50, 60 years, there's always been an arms race between brands and consumers. Brands want to get into consumers' mind. It's always for the consumer's attention. Consumers want to gather information which is relevant to them and filter out the rest. They have this mental filter where, if you remember, about 40, 50 years ago, and in fact, when I started working 25, 27 years ago, there used to be innovations in print. We used to say, the reverse gatefold on the top of the magazine would be the innovation. Even today, even in 2022, I've received a proposal. We'll do a print innovation and we'll do a reverse gatefold on the front jacket, kind of a thing. So the fact is, always brands have tried to get into the value of indifference of the customer, and therefore give their proposition and give them something relevant. Consumers want to consume that content because, hey, otherwise the newspaper or the radio program earlier, and then the TV program, and now the entire omni-channel journey would be very boring for them. They want to be entertained, they want to be engaged, but they want stuff which is relevant to them. So it's always a give and take. We want to get into cognitive dissonance. We want to move people away from inertia and take action, positive action for our brands. Consumers want the barest minimum. And typically brands come in from a maximalist position. That's why they end up spamming. And that's why they tend, people nowadays have more power. They can do unsubscribe on the emails. They can undo your application. They can not accept your cookies. But it's our job really to give people, to understand people from at least a starting point. to give them something relevant, and depending upon how they've reacted to it, then make our own decision trees and then come up with something else. So I think the onus is on us.
So I kind of agree with you. The transformation has been happening for decades. And I wanted to laugh when you said, because we also have a magazine. The innovation is the reverse gate fold and Gardner.
Yeah.
And by the way, it goes on. It kind of goes on.
Yeah, it goes on. It's still considered an innovation. There's still 100% premium, and it's still part of the annual review. So yes.
But I must also tell you, Aman, people are liking it. Some people,
Yes.
and,
Yeah,
and
it still works.
they're not a new generation of advertisers. That day I saw something and I said, I've never seen this issue. So no, this was a dummy for another customer. And I said, and so they said, guys liked it, he's taking it. I said, okay, good, great, thank you. Okay, let's move to customer democracy. The clear
Right.
fact that it's of the customer, by the customer, for the customer. What
Right.
practices are you currently following to make customer centricity the goal, the North Star of PVR Inox?
Okay. Let's actually say mea culpa. We don't have as much budgets. We don't have as much. Okay, at PVR Inox particularly, we are in a position where the content actually belongs to our rights owners partners. If it is the producers, the people who own the rights are the ones who actually take the lead in marketing the product. The product is theirs. We are giving the platform for people to come and discover it and to watch it. So it's a joint objective. So yes, the trailer, the assets, everything is produced by the producer partners. But it is our job to ensure that while the producer partners do their marketing, how do we supplement it? How do we refine it? How do we make it sharply focused to the right sets of people? So it always begins with a granular segmentation. It's not just people who have been coming or who've been looking at a particular language. It's the people who come on a certain day part, a certain week part, the people who come onto one kind of a format, the people who like to watch a movie in IMAX versus in regular formats, the people who come on weekday evenings are fundamentally different from those who come during the workday. So how do we get them? How do we know a little bit more about them and then make that our marketing proposition a part of their lives, rather than, hey, this is the product, come and watch it here. That's the lazy way of doing. So our job has been that over the past 3 years, we have implemented a very powerful backbone CDP, a data platform, where we have pulled in data from all kinds of sources. Response to advertising, the transaction tables, the payment mediums that people have used, whether they've applied an offer, whether they've seen a page and then abandoned it, whether they've opened our communication, and as a consequence, make segments on the basis of people's response to our stimuli, rather than just on the basis of behavior. So I think as marketers, and at PVR Inox, so we do a lot of these things to understand the consumer in terms of their behavior, and that's where most of our effort, I think, should keep going, and we should enhance that and strengthen that part of our thing, because that will make for a more enriched and more relevant pipeline for our consumers. So I hope that answers your question.
I had another one to add here, though not very relevant. Every marketeer, every loyalty guy starts by saying, we don't have a budget.
Yes, that's quite very true.
Okay.
Frugal and shoestring.
Everyone. So, we live off those budgets, so we kind of know. So, okay, we're going to discuss communication. Okay, now, the people we interviewed spoke about excessive and intrusive communication, and Aman, even I'm a victim of that. Right. How should brands, or how are you all planning to ensure relevant and mindful messaging for your viewers, your customers?
Okay, let's actually answer it in two ways. The first one is that actually I've worked in a few companies. I've also noticed, even from an agency point of view, I've worked with some of the best brands in the country. we do everything in the name of the customer. When you said customer democracy, it's actually resonates because it's our department within loyalty, within promotions, is always for the people, of the people, it's not by the people, by the marketers, for the people. But in spite of that fundamental mindset, most companies, most marketers seem to have a very, very mechanistic and a very transactional view of the customer. As a consequence, the fundamental issue is that campaigns are often about transactional metrics. We have x million members, out of which y million are the ones who should be recipients of this, out of which these many have opened, out of which this many. So that funneling has become very accounting oriented, has become very, very template oriented, rather than looking at the person, rather than looking at the unique psychological trail that this person may be leaving behind their digital or physical footprint. If a person is responding to you after 5 attempts, or he's responding to a particular content, if we have the capacity to do an A versus B, we should be doing that. So I think we should move away from things like the intermediate or vanity metrics. How many members we have, how many people have we targeted, how many people have opened my mailer, etc., etc. We should be actually going more towards the engagement metrics. So for me, the success of a mailer will always be of a particular marketing content that we give out, is always in terms of whether that has induced the next action. The next action may be give us feedback. The next action may be open my website. The next action may be go to the movie cart page or check out an offer. The next action may be to eventually to transact. What is the level of engagement? A person who was historically never even opening, am I able to get him to do a little bit more in terms of engagement? So once we start putting the objective function around our tasks as not going after the vanity metrics, then suddenly there's a lot of clarity. Then suddenly we are in a position to give people what we think that they would need. Then we realize with a little bit of humility, hey, we were wrong. 4% people actually transacted. That means 90% people did not, 96% did not. And there were another, 5-6% intermediate who opened but did not do some stuff. So then go back, draw again, make something else again, figure out what works, give that for the next big blockbuster or for the non-blockbuster. So it's really about being selective. It's about taking to heart the idea that less can be more. And what is relevant for you is not relevant for Raghav, is not relevant for the next guy. So really to look at people and the historical block of information we have about you, that should be just used to inform the next action. But maybe that next action may still not be good enough. We might need to do something else. I think once we use that as a template, we'll be in good stead.
Understood. Reward programs, Aman, very big for y'all from what I've noticed. Consumers spoke about having, more direct, relevant reward programs, which have a direct benefit to them. Okay.
Right.
We've seen there are several reward programs. We enroll in a lot of them, but, nothing comes out of those.
Yeah.
What are your plans of making this happen?
So the fundamental concept around rewards, benefits programs, loyalty programs, subscriptions programs, not subscriptions really, is around the fact that for a lot of customers, marketers and brands give a base level of benefit with the expectation that the majority of them will not be able to avail or will not be able to go up to the threshold to be able to avail. So people tend to accumulate miles or hotel points, or I don't even want to use specific terms around categories, but they want to avail currency. And out of 1 million people availing the currency, a small fraction gets to a threshold where they can actually redeem it. And unlike some other countries, let's say in the US, I've seen some people who hate the merchant, who hate the airline, or who hate the shopkeeper brand, but they love the program. They've got 1 million miles because their credit card is also giving them miles, their rental cars is also giving them miles, etc. So people become more attached to the reward program than to the brand. Whereas actually it should be the other way around. The reward program should foster loyalty towards the brand and its proposition rather than towards the mechanics of the program. So the fundamental idea is that if there's 1 million customers, then out of the 1 million customers, a small fraction gets to redeem it. So let's give everybody something, and some people get everything. The minute you start doing that, you actually put yourself into a corner, because you accept the market reality as is, that there is going to be a majority of our people who will not repeat enough, who will not do enough to be able to come back to you, or I can't give you an aggressive offer because I can't give an aggressive offer to 90% of my base. I can only give it to the top tier, which is only less than 10% of my base. So the minute you start thinking like that, you put yourself into casting your market structure in stone, because you end up perpetuating it. So I think, and that also leads to that cognitive dissonance. People know that they are members of a particular chain or a particular merchant or a particular restaurant or a particular airline, but they tend to consolidate a little if they really feel they'll be able to derive benefit out of it. Otherwise, it's just another activity that they do. So it becomes peripheral to their scheme of things. So whereas we would like to look at, where we are going to shortly look at a mechanism where the point is not going to be what have you earned today. It's going to be, if you were to transact today, how can we sweeten it for you? How can we nudge you forward for you? How can we take you forward in your journey of discovery and participation with us? If you've come infrequently, can we make you frequent? If you've come but not experienced all our offerings, all of our formats, or all of our recliners, or during different day parts, then can we nudge you? Can we incentivize you? But that's from the transaction side. But even give you money can't buy experiences. So I think that's where we should be heading towards. It's really about enriching the experience rather than enriching the transaction. So
question, consumers have also shown indication towards a connected CX, customer experience,
right,
to establish better connect. What do you think brands should do to ensure this?
Okay. Every few years there's a flavor of the month or a flavor of the year, right? So connected CX, CX by its very nature should always be connected, in my opinion, right? There's no point in having a balkanized CX that, if your website experience is going to be such that we'll not be able to look at your offline history kind of a thing. It was always the goal of the CX world, right from the inception, at the beginning of the last decade onwards, that, we should be looking at the customer holistically. We should be making them the center of all of our efforts. We should be able to poll their preferences and their desires, and give them something which is relevant to them. It's just now that the tools, the computing, the backbones, the clouds have become more accessible and more democratized. So a lot of people are in a position to actually deploy it. So I think that's always been the case. But philosophically, CX was always supposed to be about looking at the customer holistically. So for us, it's the culmination of a super trend that began in the early 2000s, and it's actually being fructified and deployed at scale now, or in the last 3 years onwards, and they've been productized. But it's just that that historically, even if systems were separate, the call centers were separate from transactions, and reward points were this thing. We always used to do these as manual activities. They've just become automated, and as a result, we can now take a better view. But it's not new news. The new news is that there are now better products. But the philosophy is no.
Last question. If you were to summarize, how do you think brands should create experiences that customers love so that they keep coming back for more?
I think that's the super, like that would be my appraisal question for myself as well as for the rest of my team. But genuinely, it actually begins with there's no one answer for this. The actual question is, if I may rephrase this, what can we as brands and as champions of brands and experiences, what can we offer this customer such that they feel their experience has been enhanced? It's better than what it was previously. This is a reason for them to come back. Or it's like, hey, so the experience, the elicit, the response we seek to elicit should not be, hey, this is a brand with a good set of rewards, or hey, this is a brand with a nice ad that has come to me. The response that we should get out of all our efforts should be, one set of customers feels, hey, this brand has understood something interesting about me and given me something that I didn't really expect. Another set of customers should say, hey, now that I've got this, and this brand is the one which is offering it the best, I will only go towards this. So it's always now segmented. So if you have, previously we used to have 8 or 10 or 12 segments. Then we made it into micro segments of 255. Now we actually look at the real micro segments. Every segment can be up to 3,000 people or 2,000.
I'm losing you, Aman.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we lost the last half minute.
Sorry. So it's not about a one size answer for what can brands do for consumers. It's actually what can brands do for this set of consumers. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Aman. Interesting conversation. I told you I wanted to share some things, but
Yes.
the more I look at your case, quite a bit of a challenge. And I was recently speaking with the technology leader of the BFSI space, 480 million customers. So you can imagine who the bank would be. It's a bank.
Yeah.
And he was talking of how to personalize the user experience, the customer experience across platforms for 480 million customers. I don't know what your base is, but 480 million is now no longer half the population, but 1/3 our population.
Yeah.
But somewhere, from your conversation, I gathered that it's one customer at a time for PVR Inox, and keep on enhancing, and highly personalized. Lots of luck in the journey, and thank you for taking the time out to be with us.
Thank you. We can also declare, I mean, that our customer base is at this time at least 50 million plus. Maybe we will deduplicate between both brands, that there will be a small commonality. Some people may be going to both our companies, but even after that, we will be about that. So it's not small, but yes, personalization at scale and giving relevant stuff at scale is going to be our challenge.
Yeah, so 55 million is not small.
That's sure. But
awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hoshi. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Hi, my name is Raghav. In the second episode of Chat Series, we had a chat with 3 marketers. We got to see that how they're planning to boost their CX, offer better customer experiences, and maximize tech utilization. So here are our 5 takeaways from this session. Let's get right into it. The first of all is capture value from a customer data and create valuable experiences. Create brand awareness. Your brand should always be on top of the customer's mind when he or she is ready to buy. Look at loyalty programs that fulfill customer needs and also the business goals. Make customer centricity the end goal of every department. And of course, the last one is maximize tech utilization to boost customer experience. Well, this was indeed an insightful episode with the marketers. See you in the next one.